Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
But here we are. All right, good morning. And Sidelines had the it is so cold in here. My mute button froze. Anyway, broadcasting live from Memphis, and I think it's about 5 degrees outside. Looking forward to covering a lot today, sports wise. The bottom line is, SEC basketball is big. And Arkansas is one of the premier programs. So we're going to talk with Dudley, Dawson, Hogville.net in the first segment. What's going on with the Razorbacks? I have grown up watching Arkansas basketball all my life, and this just doesn't make sense. Vince Ferrara checks in the next segment, the sports animal up in Knoxville, talking about Tennessee basketball. They're hot. They're on fire. Had that loss last week at the Hump down in Starkville. That's a tough place to play. Not anything to be ashamed of. Second hour, Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com checks in with us. And David Schultz checks in. Schultzy cast, locked on Sunbelt, the Sultan of the Sunbelt, in the fourth segment today. Hey, we do this 25 times a month, at least 300 plus times a year. Look, we don't do a podcast every week or two when we feel like it. We get a bunch of people together, and it's basically just a giant run-on sentence. We do it the right way with the best in the business. Follow us on all formats of social media, and let's get started right now. Dudley, Dawson. Dudley, I don't know how much snow y'all got up in Springdale and Fayetteville and that part of the state, but we drove over to Stuttgart yesterday and had to run an errand over there. They got a lot over there, but while we were there, if you ever go to Stuttgart, and I go there a lot, was there Sunday, went back again yesterday, go to Lotus Blossom. That's maybe the best Thai food I've ever had. Just another small Arkansas town, maybe the most prosperous town in the Mississippi Delta, Stuttgart, Arkansas, with the Carrier Plant, Riceland, Producers Mill, Rice, and Max Prairie Wings, where we were. But Dudley, you look like you're staying warm, and you got rid of the old favorite set. Where'd it go?
It'll be back. The main computer is a little cold this morning, I guess. So we're on the phone for a second while it warms up. But we get like 3 or 4 inches, so plenty to keep inside. And the dogs have been going out, but not so much me.
Well, the bottom line is we got sports going on. The TVs are working. SEC basketball right now. Give me your take on where Arkansas is, and can you put your finger on the problem or problems that are hurting this team? Because I just think of Eric Musselman, going to 2 Elite Eights. He recruits at a really high level. Something that's not working, maybe that
Well, I think for the biggest part, I think it's been defense. They just not have played the get in your face type defense. Played with passion that they needed to. Certainly did at the start of the game last night. Went into a long field goal drought. It almost cost them the game, but Tremont on mark with a big shot there with 1.1 seconds left. Let's see if it turns the season around. They've had a point each year where they've fallen down either 1-3, 0-3, whatever. 0-4 would have been maybe the death knell. But after Wade Taylor, who's a phenomenal player for Texas A&M, hitting yet another great shot, they get the ball to Mark, and he's able to get them a win. Now, can they improve on that when they play South Carolina Saturday? That's going to be a big key. You get to 2-3, maybe you're feeling better about yourself. 1-4, you're still suffering and trying to get your footing and all that. But a huge shot last night, and you could tell by the way the team reacted and the way that certainly Musselman reacts, who never hides his feelings.
Yeah. Well, it's an emotional game. I mean, there's no sport where you see the coach more visibly than you do in college basketball, NBA, whatever. After the virus, the pandemic, no one wears suits much anymore except for Buzz Williams, and he wears a three-piece suit. He's one of my favorite coaches. Have you ever had a chance to talk to him much about basketball and his philosophy? He wins everywhere he goes.
Yeah, I've known Coach Williams for a long time. In fact, he was obviously one of the candidates a couple of times here, but decided to go elsewhere. But I thought it was interesting. He's in his three-piece suit, and somebody pointed out he looked like a mega church preacher in the first half. Then he went to a sweater in the second half, and he looked like you're just pastor down the street. So
yeah,
he's a great coach. He got the most out of what he had last night. Was missing Henry Coleman, who came in here last year and had 18 points and 15 rebounds. So that was a big loss for them. But you got to give them a lot of credit. They are a gritty team, 20-plus offensive rebounds. That's something that Arkansas, rebounding hasn't been their forte this year. It has been for A&M, who beat Kentucky, obviously, on Saturday. So that was a big win for Arkansas. But you got to continue to build on it. Certainly all the problems are not solved, but they're easier solved after a win than they are after a loss.
Well, they are. And, you win a game like you did 78-77. At the end, you win close games. I think it makes you a better team. Football, basketball, baseball. What's for a baseball purist? What's better than a 2-1, 10-inning thriller?
Yeah, I love pitching duels in baseball. I always have plenty of them. Over the course of the time I followed the Cardinals. Not many last year, but similar to what Arkansas is going through. You have to feel everything out. You're getting deep in the season. You can say it's early. You still got time to turn it around. But I just think if that shot didn't go in last night, that it may have been a lost season. And you've got a little bit of a reprieve here. You've got some options to try to do something Saturday. Again, you got South Carolina coming in. You get past them, then maybe you can fight your way back to the tournament. You do still have a win over Duke in your back pocket. Even though it was an exhibition game, people know how you played against Purdue, but you got to put a string of victories as they have, in the previous seasons. Coach Musselman's been here, but you can't keep doing this every year, or you're a magician.
Well, looking around the league right now, Alabama's 4-0, got the win over Missouri last night. Auburn's 3-0. Ole Miss with Chris Beard, can't help but talk about them. I think they are 2-1 in the SEC, won 15 or 16 games. One guy comes in. The previous coach, who I really like, Kermit Davis, wasn't able to succeed. He just could not get the best out of that team. Chris Beard comes in, brings in some guys via the portal, and now you sit there and you look at what's going on. The portal can help you. Look at University of Memphis with Penny Hardaway. I think 13 of the 14 players on that roster are brand new, and people are like, but it is great for program sales. There are two ways. The old way was don't put names on the jerseys. People will buy programs that way, but then eventually they'll figure out who they are. But the other one is go to the portal, because in basketball, you can do a almost 100% makeover. And another one that's interesting is LSU. I mean, they're 2-1 in the conference. And I watched them play Auburn Saturday. Auburn was up by 28. And all of a sudden, that's a 9-point game. They hit 4 3-pointers, consecutive 3-pointers. Who are the most improved couple of teams in the league this year?
Well, I think you have to look at Georgia. Mike White's doing a great job down there. I didn't expect this out of them. Big wins. Obviously, Georgia almost beat Kentucky this past week, but Kentucky came back at the end. I think Georgia and Florida are two teams that you can talk about. They're improving and how, from where they started to now. Obviously, Florida, a very young team, has a great amount of length, some really good skilled players. I think those are two teams. The other ones we pretty much expected to be good. I think we all expected Auburn to be good. You got to give Bruce Pearl a lot of credit for what he's done with that team. Alabama obviously is a very good team. Has shown that out of conference as well as in. I'm anxious to see what comes from passionate head coach putting his hand on another team's players. I believe you're probably going to have to say something about that if you're the commissioner or whatever. That just can't happen. And I know that you apologize to coaches and players after the ball games, but if there's one thing you can't have in sports, it's that. Because if it went the other way, he would have gone ballistic.
Well, sorry about that. We remember Dale Browne in that SEC tournament game running out there when Shaq was just getting pushed around. I think that was the Tennessee game. And I love Dale Browne, and he'd had enough. And but that's the most memorable one. But Nate Oates, also you got to feel for Nate Oates being put in the middle of that horrible tragedy last year when, you would think that the people that run the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa there would have said any questions about, the dealing with Darius Miles will be referred to our legal counsel. They are right here. Only questions about Alabama basketball to Nate Oates. And then he lost a lot of his team after that year. And I think it's fair to say he is a really good basketball coach.
I think he's a great basketball coach.
He's outstanding.
But I'll tell you what, I do agree with that. But I'll tell you what, I still think he could have handled it, even though I think Alabama should have handled it better. I mean, I watch a lot of Perry Mason. I watch a lot of Law.
I do too.
I used to watch the LA Legal back in the day. I know how you're supposed to handle things, how you do it with cinematic license and how you don't. But that just was not handled on any front very well. Brandon Miller's, in the NBA now, lots of money, having a decent season. But that I think that tarnished them. And but one kid got suspended this week or this year. They're like, "What do you do? Oh my God, what do you do?" So it puts discipline, which I do think he has in his program on the floor. Yeah, clearly, but I don't want to pile on out of respect for the young lady who was killed in the situation, but still that was not handled well at all. I would hope that they had meetings that should something of this ilk happen again, how we go about handling this. And as you said, basketball should be talked about by the basketball coach. The school policy, school guidelines, school rules should be followed. Should happen, come under the chancellor, the president, or whoever leads your school, supposedly. Yeah,
legal counsel.
Nick Saban would have handled it much differently.
I think so, and I think he let it be known. Yeah, I remember that. But Oates is damn good, and the state of Alabama has won for the last 3 years, either Auburn or Alabama, SEC championship. It's just really the guy came from Buffalo, and I see now where Kalen DeBoer has hired coach from Buffalo. So he brought Cade Womack from South Alabama, whose dad, I remember Dave Womack was defensive coordinator at Arkansas, like 01 to 04 with Houston Nutt. I mean, and Kane's been at South Alabama, got a 11 or 12 win season a couple of years ago. All right. Want to get to this point. SEC versus Big 12 in basketball. And you really know basketball, Dudley. You know a lot about a lot of things. The Big 12 schools this year, are they demonstrably better than the SEC? And I'll start with Kansas.
Kansas, I love their basketball team. They usually get the most out of what they have. And I realize how stupid it is to say because they get, highly ranked players. And now it's highly ranked transfer guys from the portal.
Yeah.
Hunter Dickerson was a big pickup for Coach Self, who I must acknowledge is one of my better friends in the coaching industry because he comes from the Eddie Sutton coaching tree. And we sat together at Miss Sutton's funeral. And he's a good dude. He's got a lot of grief and maybe some of it deserved, but I do think he does a really good job. But from top to bottom, the Big 12 is better this year. It has been in a lot of the years. Now, maybe at the top, you've got better SEC teams, in various years. But if you just take your SEC bias out of it and look at the analytics over the course of the last few years, I think top to bottom, the Big 12 has been a better basketball conference. The SEC has been a better football one.
Yeah, and you look at Baylor, TCU had a run in the last couple of years, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, now Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. But SEC, Big 12, the next question I have is, and I'm throwing a lot out there, we're going to get back to Arkansas in a minute, Big East. Last year they had, 3, maybe 4 in the Sweet 16. They're emerging as a really – and it's a great brand, but it's fair to say that there's a lot of parity in college basketball now. And the so-called blue bloods, they're bleeding, they're hemorrhaging because of the portal. And I think the SEC is now keeping a lot of the kids in the deep South footprint that used to go to ACC schools like Duke and North Carolina.
And you mentioned Buffalo. I'm going to throw out Albany, which is a school that is interesting to us here at Arkansas for a couple of reasons. They got a defensive end that they're really excited about coming here that played at Albany. And Saylor Poffenberger, who's the nation's second best rebounder and she's on Arkansas's women's basketball team. Her brother was the quarterback there this year. Now he's transferred through the portal to Miami. So, it used to be that there was a clear delineation between levels of football. There was the blue bloods, the elites. You had people, struggling in the middle. Then you went down to 1AA and Division II. Harding was arguably, who won the Division II title here in the state, was arguably the best put together, best executed, best coached football team in this state this year. Ends up doing that. But it's no longer a haves and have-nots to me. It is a farm system somewhat, in that the best players at your level may be going up the next level. They're certainly going to be recruited. And that's got to be tough on those coaches who do not have the budget and facilities that a lot of others do. And, SEC teams, Big 12 teams, ACC teams are just sweeping in and saying, I'll take him, out of your program.
Yeah.
I give them a lot of credit. There's some great coaches at levels other than Division I.
Yeah, there are, I think, 357 schools eligible to make the tournament in March. And everybody's complaining in college football, Dudley, about going from 4 to 12 teams. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's going to do nothing but increase interest. In fact, the 13th and 14th schools are going to be madder than hell because they didn't get in. But again, that controversy creates a lot of interest and puts a lot of eyeballs on TV sets.
Well, I know there'll be 12 teams who don't have many opt-outs as they did during the bowl season and all that. So that's one of the things I'm excited about. I watched almost a little bit, probably of all 40-plus bowls there were, because, I spent a lot of time in front of a computer, and a TV's just over here past the computer. There were a lot of really good games. There were some that weren't. Obviously, when you went and watched these games, at the start of the game, the announcer spent time saying who's not here, how it's been, what they're doing. This year, at least 12 of those bowl games and situations will be, that count, and you would expect most people would stick around. And I tell you what, if I had an NIL deal, I'd make sure my NIL deal with that kid or that player, young man, lasts through all 12, lasts through all rounds of the playoffs, not just up till the bowl start.
Yeah, I asked a guy that's helping run an NIL collective in the South last week about those contracts. He said they're different at every school and think different for every player. What's interesting to me, Dudley, is when we heard about NIL in some format for years, you and I both did.
But
it was
never
always
in my
like
wildest dreams.
did we see it like this? Yeah. Yeah, we thought maybe you got money for your jersey number or something like that. And people say, well, why don't we just make it a revenue sharing off the jersey numbers? Well, some guys' jerseys are going to sell more than others. Well, that's life. Some guys make more money than others. Some women make more money than others. But it was always, though, based on what you had accomplished while you were at the school. I know Alabama put Alabama Forever. That's a new deal they've got for former athletes who aren't even there, that may have been played there 10, 20, 30, 50 years ago. But Joe Namath will like to cash in on that. He's not the only one. But you look at it now, it is all pay for play. And you better support your NIL collective wherever you are. Because if you don't, you're in trouble.
I find it interesting, name, image, and likeness. Ain't nobody getting paid for their picture. Ain't nobody getting paid for their name. They're getting paid based on really the ones coming in for their initial shot at college football. They're getting paid on their potential. And then, for lack of a better way to put it, the other ones now, after they've been here a while, are basically, that was your rookie contract. Now you're ready for your second contract, which, as we know, in all sports can be the biggest moneymaker, can set you up with generational money in the pros. Well, it can set you up with a nice few years after college if you do it right here. And I guess, I think you're right. Name, image, and likeness. Yeah, it was a cute little moniker to put on it and all that. But again, ain't nobody getting paid for the picture in there.
You're getting paid once you get on campus. That's when you're supposed to sign your contract. And what I'm hearing is the university's just not supposed to have anything to do with it. The coaches and everybody, it's just boosters. The gray area in this is it's setting it. And now we're seeing once again how the NCAA flexes their muscle with their selective enforcement. They're after Florida State for something. But they've got some coach that's going to maybe be suspended for 3 games. So we'll see how it works out. But call it what it is. It's pay for play. You're enticing these guys to come, and once they get there, they sign their contracts. But again, you better support your NIL collective at whatever school you're a fan of, because if you don't, you're going to be subjected to 6-6, 7-5 tops.
4-8. 4-8.
Yeah, 4-8. Yeah, you can do that. All right, Arkansas football update here on Sideline Sports. Give us the latest information in the portal. I know the portal window's closed, but it never is something that stops.
Right. Overall, I think probably 3 weeks ago, maybe it was close to a month, I was on here and I was talking about how they had done the job in filling needs, but they didn't do a job, to me, at that point, in making a difference, moving up in the hierarchy of talent in the SEC. There was a Friday a few weeks ago where they landed 3 big players. They've added some more as time has gone on, including starting safety at Florida. I do think, although they still have about 5 scholarships left to give, and there'll be another wave of people after spring practice, which is just the stupidest thing. I now believe that Arkansas has had a good talent acquisition year, a couple of months, and that they're going to be better. Now, the question is, how will Bobby Petrino and the offense come along? You've got some quarterbacks who have a lot of talent, but they haven't been proven, certainly at an SEC level, that are here. Your former quarterback is now at UCF with Gus Malzahn, which is just the craziest thing. Obviously, I think they've done a really good job lately in closing the gap, but there's just so many questions left, as there usually is in a 4-8 season. At least after the 4-8 seasons of the past, you knew what everybody had coming back. But now with the, would you put any money on Arkansas and Ole Miss next year? I certainly wouldn't. As far as Arkansas beating Ole Miss, they may do it. But, I mean, let's look at that class that Lane Kiffin has and, the class that everybody else has. Ole Miss has gotten better, and they were pretty doggone good to start off with. I think you've got to give Ole Miss and Missouri a real chance next year in being, breaking into the old boys club up there at the top.
Well, you talk about it. Look at you've seen seasons. I mean, speaking of Gus Malzahn, the 2012 Auburn team, and I have these stats ingrained in my brain because Dad was in college at Auburn when it happened. 1950, Auburn was 0-10 and lost to Wofford. Governor Gordon Persons was sworn in on the Capitol steps in Montgomery as the new governor of Alabama, and he gave a quick speech and immediately fired Earl Browne, the football coach at Auburn. As everyone said, a fine man, a gentleman, a fine man, a Notre Dame man. Couldn't coach a lick, and hired Ralph Shug Jordan to come back from where he was at Georgia. So you can, and then 1950 to 2012, that was the god-awfulest football season in Auburn history. It was the end of Gene Chiswick's career at Auburn. It was a disaster. It was the year that Gus had gone to Arkansas State for that 1 year. Mm-hmm. He came back, and he said, I'm not going to hold last year against y'all. I'm not even going to watch the tape. And they were within 13 seconds of winning that national championship against Florida State. So the way to do it, you go from 4-8 to a great season is don't hold it over those guys' heads. I think Gus Malzahn he's all over the place because that's what it's like though being an Auburn fan. You go from eating at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse to CK's coffee shop. It's a different cut of meat. But Bobby Petrino gets me more excited about football offensively than about anybody in America. So, but what I worry about is if something happens and they don't have a good year and they get rid of all the coaches, he's gone too.
Oh, absolutely. If they don't have a good year, it's going to be because he was part of the problem, not part of the solution.
Exactly.
He similar to what you're saying. He came in here at his initial press conference. He talked right away. They asked him. Certainly the reporter didn't put it this way, but I'll just break it down. He said, "This team has sucked last year and didn't have a lot of playmakers. What are you going to do about that?" And he basically said, "Look, I've watched a lot of tape, but we're not going to look behind. We're going to look forward." The similar philosophy, I guess, to what you're talking about that Coach Malzahn brought in there. And that all sounds great, but it's hard to do. And you needed to go out and get some receivers. You needed to go out and get some offensive linemen for sure. They've done both of those things. Now, we all remember back in the day that he had a magic stick that he could, look at the offense and turn good quarterbacks into great quarterbacks. He could turn good offenses into great offenses. Does that still work? Does it still happen? I give him the benefit of the doubt. But I'll tell you one thing, I do think they are going to be not only better defensively, but much better defensively. And where are the Cowboys? The Cowboys are currently assessing their options to see who their new head coach is going to be. I do not root for my teams to lose, certainly. Yeah. And certainly get embarrassed. But as soon as the game was over with, instead of going by Felicia, I was going by Mike McCarthy. And I just don't see how – I've never been the biggest fan anyway. And after that situation, you got to move on. It's for aesthetics, if nothing else. But thanks for your concern.
No, I mean, I was mad. Now, Michael Sag and all my Packers friends, man, Michael and Connor and Mary and Catherine, they go to 3 or 4 games a lot of years up in Lambeau. I mean, they are hardcore. But, man, that was tough.
Well, one of those things was well coached and played to win and played freely. The other puckered up. Yeah,
they did. And came back in late, but it was too little too late. All right, let's do this. Let's take a quick commercial break, Dudley. I tell you what, I am wearing a Stetson flannel shirt, folks. I got it at Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. They got over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots. All those good-looking clothes you see on Yellowstone, men's and women's clothes, Dolce Vita boots. They've got these Danner low-cut hiking boots. I got a pair of them a few months ago. We've been wearing them in the snow. We got about 6 inches here in Memphis and over in Parkin. And you could run a 10K in these shoes. They are the best hiking boots. And I've also got a pair of full-length Danners. They get them all for you. They're the second largest Filson dealer in the southeastern U.S. They've got Pendleton, Schaefer Outdoors, ginormous collection of everything that Duckhead makes, okay? And a 50% off rack, STS clothing, STS luggage, Filson luggage. Get out there to Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. We will take a quick break. I am freezing in here. It's 48 degrees here in the house right now. We're having a ball, and we'll be right back with Dudley Dawson and Vince Ferrara. More Sidelines.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shopp's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Welcome to Rumble, bringing half boxing, half strength, and 10 rounds of fire. Pull up, say what's up to our studio team, check in and grab your gear. Don't have gloves, don't have wraps, don't worry, we got you.
You think you better than battle rap?
Find your starting spot. B means bag, F means floor. Make your way to the studio, find where all the magic happens, give Jab a little love on the way in, or snap a pic for the gram. Tap in with your trainer and get ready to bring the thunder. Eyes up at your Rumble trainer, fitness pro, DJ, MC extraordinaire. We'll walk you through our 6 punches in our pre-class. Warm up with some shadow boxing, that way you know what to throw.
All right, Rumble Boxing Gym, 1835 Union Avenue, at the corner of Union and McLean in Midtown Memphis. Awesome, badass workout. My friend Ann Camp-Lee, this is the first of 3 locations she's going to open up in the Memphis market. You will go in there, 45-minute sessions, 15 of them. They're 3 minutes each, 45 minutes. You've got 48 people in the class. You're doing all the star jacks, burpees, push-ups, planks, dips, dumbbell work, and then, bam, you go over there and hit those bags. Hook, hook, punch, punch, jab, jab. Rumble Boxing Gym. Do yourself a favor. Sign up and get started. Dudley, speaking of that, boxing, what a sport. Can you imagine being 238 pounds, a couple of heavyweights going 15 3-minute rounds for 45 minutes? what that would do.
I certainly can imagine being 238 pounds. I don't know about going in the ring for a while. Maybe at an alcohol establishment would have to be involved.
Yeah, but I mean, I've done it, and I'm telling you, those Rumble workouts are awesome. I would compare it to knocking out 1.5 miles in the water, 2 miles swimming. I mean, which I love swimming, biking, running, all that stuff. It is an awesome workout. And also the Vitamin Shop, 5338 Goodman Road, Olive Branch, Mississippi, open Monday through Saturday, 9:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sundays, 10:30 a.m., 7 p.m. You go in there, they've got nutritionists, healthcare specialists. They will get you everything you need. I buy shot blocks and goo there, and also we buy the probiotics. You got one body, one trip to the plate. Take care of yourself. Go to the Vitamin Shop. Also opening up February 12th, their second location in Oxford, Mississippi. All you Ole Miss people out there, they're going to have a grand opening February 23rd. Or as they say in the Deep South, Dudley, February. It's an uncommon spelling. All right, Vince Ferrara, he is hopping on right now. He is snowed in, he said, up there in Knoxville. Can you imagine being up in the Smokies right now? Or, no, Audrey and I were driving over to Stuttgart yesterday. I-40 is great. I mean, it's wide open. Dudley, you think about getting up there to Jasper and Van Buren and up in the I don't think they count the snow. I wonder, let's say you got 4 or 5 inches in Springdale. I bet they got a whole bunch more in the mountains up there. But speaking of a gorgeous state, the state of Arkansas, the pie lady over there at Craig's Barbecue in DeVal's Bluff, we went over there again, picked up 24 Craig's Barbecue sandwiches this past Sunday. They're out of pie again. We had no pie, and I offered the lady, I said, what if someone came in here and offered you $1 million to make a pie? She goes, I make the damn thing myself. I'm like, so would I. Hey, Vince Ferrara, the sports animal in Knoxville, one of the best in the business, also a huge part of the VOLS Sports Network, along with John Wilkerson, 2 of the best on broadcast of college baseball, and also the son of Mama Ferrara from Tampa. I was getting hungry talking to you the other day. How long did you stay down there in Tampa for the bowl game and everything? About a week and a half?
Well, my total trip was 17 days, and great to be on with you guys again. I split up the drive down. There were storms and things like that going through Florida. So yeah. I broke up the drive in Georgia. So I was probably down there a total of 15 days with a couple of those days on the road, but still it was wonderful to be there and be able to jump on the interstate real quick and get to Orlando a couple of times, including for the Citrus Bowl.
Yeah. Well, we have one of our members of the Cherry Farm, Jeff Boone, his son Thomas, works at Pete and Sam's, a great Italian restaurant since 1947 in Memphis. And every night when he comes over late, he brings like 6 or 8 pizzas and also the beacon salads. But you ever get to Memphis, go to Pete and Sam's or any of the Grazzani's restaurants, get the Elfo special, the wedge salad. You cannot beat it. I'm getting hungry because I'm so cold over here. The heat sensor on the thermostat went out, and we're waiting on the heating and air man to make his way out here. And I just don't think we're a priority out here in Parkin, Arkansas, in the middle of nowhere. And it's 46 degrees right now in the studio. So I've got on a Filson vest right here. I got it at Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company. Let's talk some SEC basketball. We've been talking with Dudley. The Hogs got a win last night. Take it from here. You two guys are a lot smarter than anybody else about your respective schools and also college basketball.
Well, yeah, last night, guys, Dalton Connect went out for a career-high 39 points. He is on an unbelievable roll. Dalton Connect had 36 against Georgia on the road on Saturday, and then backed that up with a 39-point performance in this one. Dalton Connect is just to me, he's the SEC player of the year right now. I don't think there's anyone really even close. Here's what Dalton Connect has done with that 39-point performance last night at home against Florida. He's the only Tennessee player with back-to-back 35-point games since Allen Houston. He's the only SEC player to drop 35-plus point back-to-back games over the last 25 seasons, and he scored 103 points in his last 3 games. That was the previous record was held by Chris Lofton since 2006. He had 89 in a 3-game stretch, and Connect zoomed past him there. He's making 3-pointers. He's making tough shots in the lane. He makes almost all of his free throws. He's an unbelievable talent. He was an offensive player when he got here from Northern Colorado, and he came to Tennessee because he wanted to be coached hard by Rick Barnes and get better with his defense and overall game. He has done that. He's not an elite defender, but he's gotten at least respectable in that area and better. But he's gotten even better offensively. And Rick Barnes, who's been criticized for running his motion offense and not letting offensive players be offensive, has let Dalton Connect. He's let him be who he is, and he's gone to him to take over games when they've fallen behind or when other guys' shots aren't falling. It is amazing how different this team is because of one player. It's basketball. Dalton Connect is the talk of the league right now, and he should be with what he has done to spark this Tennessee team.
Yeah, I agree. I had a chance to watch him several games now. I've just been thoroughly impressed. He's smiling a lot, and I think that's for 2 reasons. Number one is because he's playing great. His team is winning, and he is just adding zeros to his contract for the NBA. He's, I think it's safe to say he's the best right now pro prospect in the in the SEC, and I realize that's a big statement when you throw Kentucky's players and all that in there. But he's a shooting guard who has everything you need. He's having fun doing it. I think he'd be a great fit. I don't know, in Boston, but I'm not sure he's going to get to the last pick of the first round.
Well,
I do. I will say that I do think Wade Taylor, although I agree with you that Dalton should be the front runner for the thing. Wade Taylor, his 41 points last night and how he's played in these last few games is in the same neighborhood, although he's not at he's not up where Dalton is just yet. But those are 2 guys that I think you start with the conversation for sure.
We're looking at that game, Tennessee against Georgia Saturday. Mike White is making Georgia play better, a lot better, and I think the fans are starting to take an interest. But that was a big win. You lost at Mississippi State. That's a tough place to play. Road games in the SEC are tough. That's why I think the winner of this league this year will be 13-5 or 14-4. It's very hard, and teams some of them peak out too early or whatever. What's different about this Rick Barnes Tennessee team than all of his other teams?
It's the offense and being able to stop droughts on offense when they don't move the ball to their best of their ability or shots aren't falling, and they just get stuck for 5, 6, 7 minutes, even more at a time in the last couple of years. And just the fact that they defend so well would keep them in games, but man, those offensive droughts would kill them, and it hurt them in the NCAA tournament. And this team will be different because they have a stud now that can carry them. That's one. The other thing is, the other biggest question about Tennessee coming into the year is, would there be enough low post and paint scoring? And Jonas Adu has developed so much in his time at Tennessee. I mean, he's got tremendous length inside mobility. He can shoot with either hand. The way he spins at his size, nearly a 7-footer. He's got such a soft touch, terrific shot blocker. Now he's gone up against some thick bigs, and the elite bigs in college basketball from North Carolina, from Purdue, and Baycott and Edey and some of those guys. But Tulu Smith gave him some trouble at Mississippi State. The bigger guys, sometimes they can get position on him low because he is thinner. But man, he presents such a challenge on the other end to them, and that low post scoring. Even Tobe Awaka, who's more of the shorter, thicker, muscular big, that's more about the rebounding. Even with him, he's improved his offensive game. And then another thing they're doing is they're driving to the basket more. They're getting up and down the floor more. They're taking advantage of break opportunities when they're there. Too often in the past, Rick Barnes teams relying on the half court offense and have to run their full motion and then run most of the shot clock. And it's just such a grind offensively to go with their offense. Now, when they get easy basket opportunities, they take it. And then the fact that they're a threat to drive opens them up from 3-point range as well. Still turn the ball over a little bit too much. At times when they go small, teams can rebound against them. Florida had 19 offensive rebounds. So this is not a perfect team or, not declaring them the best team in the country. They actually have a lot of things they can do better, which, should be exciting for fans, except for those that are just worried about the postseason and not enjoying when they play well in the regular season.
Yeah, Dudley and Vince, either one of y'all, people all they do is think about March Madness, and they don't think about the season along the way. And it leads to this, to me, it's a bogus narrative. The regular season doesn't matter. You will say that if you are the fan of a bad team. When you got a good team, every game matters, because the problems that you have during the regular season will manifest themselves when you get into the tournament. I remember back 2007, 2008 Memphis team with Derrick Rose. They were horrible free throw shooting team. And with about 2 minutes left, we're all watching it at the El Marone Fieldhouse on the University of Memphis campus. They were playing Kansas for the national championship. And with 2 minutes left, Memphis was up by 9. They couldn't hit free throws. And that guy Chalmers, who later came on and played for the Grizzlies, won the game. That was a tough one. But I think Vince was right. Enjoy the regular season, but that's who your team's going to be when they get to the tournament anyway.
Where it has been kind of a little different here in that Arkansas under Coach Musselman has started out struggling in conference play and then come back and done well in the tournament. Obviously, the best run they've had in the tournament since Coach Richardson was around in terms of getting deep into it and, the Elite Eight to Sweet 16s. But what I will tell you is when anybody gets upset, they refer back to, I don't know about Musselman. He was 8-10 in conference play with 4 NBA players. They actually have 4 guys off that team that are on NBA rosters right now. Ricky Council being the fourth of the ones, obviously the 3 were highly drafted. And those who love him will say, yeah, but look what he's done in March. And that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest quandary. LSU, great. And now I'm talking baseball. LSU baseball was, went to the national championship, obviously won it in Omaha there last year. But who was the SEC champion? Dave Van Horn, and was trying to get people to remember that, that Arkansas actually won a share of the SEC regular season title last year. It's your preference. Do you care more about the regular season? Do you care more about the postseason? What I would say is last night after that Arkansas basketball game, I saw a few people on Twitter or X or Icebox or whatever they call it now that were saying, well, I'm not happy with this win at all. I'm like, just shut up. A win's a win. And even on the TV after the game, the announcers were saying it wasn't a pretty win. Someone was like, oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah. Any win's a pretty win. So
yeah. Well, you're right. When someone says I'm not happy with this win, and trust me, being an Auburn fan with the last few years with Alabama doing what they're doing, even when you win, you're not winning by enough. Vince, question now, and I think Dudley, hopefully his monitor didn't freeze. He was having a little bit of trouble getting his computer warmed up. Our heat sensor's out here at this gigantic house where we are, and it's 47 degrees now in the house. It's about 3 degrees outside with 6 inches of snow. And the highway, you can't see the highway, but thank God I've got an F-150 with all-terrain tires, which you can get at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. But Vince, ACC, SEC, Big 12. Let's talk about that. This conversation, I asked Dudley earlier, and, SEC, Big 12, but you're a little closer to the ACC. Let's compare these 3 leagues because I think the interest of the fans is really going up in basketball.
It is. If I had to rank those, to me, there's no doubt it's the Big 12 1, the SEC 2, and the ACC 3. The Big 12 has by far the most teams in the top 25 right now. Now, that's not the be-all, end-all. Let's see how it plays out when you get to the postseason. But the Big 12 has been really good in the portal, and they've got more depth of quality teams. So I do think that I would put the Big 12 there right now. There's outstanding coaching in all three of those leagues, including in the SEC. That's why basketball has improved through the years. But right now, I think you got to give the advantage to the Big 12. There's some average to below average teams in West Virginia and Oklahoma State. But, man, even the middle of the pack, you got ranked teams in the middle to the 1 and 2 teams in the top 15. Houston and Oklahoma are 1 and 2 in the league, and they're in the top 15 in the top 25. Now, it's super early, but BYU and Houston have added depth to this league that was already really good. Cincinnati has been a great basketball product. We talked so much about football when they had those additions with all the realignment, but man, they have made that already good basketball league even better.
Yeah. Dudley, speaking of BYU, I was at Jeremy's Barbecue Shack in Parkin last week getting the brisket sandwich, which is just the best I've ever had. And, Gary Bohannon, who played at Earl High School, went to Baylor and then to South Florida. He's graduated now. He has transferred to BYU to be their quarterback. So wish him well. The Earl High School Bulldogs from Earl, Arkansas. But, all right, Dudley, I'll throw it at you. ACC, SEC, Big 12. Again, we talked about the first segment, SEC, Big 12, but ACC, anywhere else?
Well, first of all, that was a heck of a segue. To give you credit on that. BYU to Earl, Arkansas, here, Gary Bohannon, nicely done.
And food, which always happens with
yeah. And hey, always get that sponsors, in there.
Right.
But this answer I'm going to bring you is brought to you by McDonald's.
Blue Jays in Grubbs, Arkansas.
You bet. As I was saying earlier, I agree with him that the Big 12, analytics and the eye test, which I'm still a member of the eye test group, that, what I see means more to me than what I read in computer numbers and all that. But it's just, to me, if you want to go on the road, I think you can win better in the SEC and win better in the ACC than you can in the Big 12. I think there are just so many great facilities and crowds and all that. And over the past few years, as I've said, the SEC has been a better football conference, but the Big 12 has been a better basketball one. And while we've mentioned the Big East and some other places, I just think that's the accurate answer. If you throw that SEC bias out of there and you just look at it with your eyes, and you can bring in the analytics if you want to, because they do have a place. But it's not a shame to be number 2 or whatever.
All right, here's another one. I got to ask y'all, and there's a lot of these questions come in, and I'm throw it at you first, Vince. Now, Vince, you do broadcasting. Dudley, you do some too. Best TV basketball crew that you see. I like Bill Walton if you're staying up late at night, and it's going to be weird with the Pac-12 becoming the Big 10. I guess he'll still do it, but there's nobody that gives you so many idiot savant stats as he does. But who's your best crew for watching basketball? What about do you still like Duke Vitale?
Dudley, you want to start?
Oh, I'm a big fan of Walton. I will stay up and watch a game that I don't have any interest in just so I can learn about what life was like on a reservation taking peyote in the 70s or whatever it was. I learned a lot of stuff from him. There's so many good ones out there. I think that I still, I certainly, there you go. I certainly give.
She's back.
She's back.
Yeah, I certainly give Vitale a lot of credit, and I'm glad he's doing better now with his illness and all. Mm-hmm. But he certainly helped make the college basketball on TV a little bit more fun. Some of the stuff got old as it went along, but I think he does a phenomenal job. But there's so many good ones. It's kind of hard to differentiate. I mean, there are, and this is not a sexist statement. It is an accurate statement. There are far more now female broadcasters who are better than male broadcasters.
Yeah.
That didn't used to be the case. I'm just being real. Their information, their delivery has become a lot better than some of the guys who just relied on, here's what I did 30 years ago, and I'm still doing it.
Yeah. Dudley, no one's ever put it like that. You just nailed it. And I do think there's some damn good women announcers. And Dawn Davenport's good. She's out of Nashville. And you know what? I like Holly Rowe. Vince?
Yeah, there's a lot of talent, male or female. I think from maybe the question was in terms of I'm thinking play-by-play analyst duo, and the one that I think that I enjoy and also reflects on it being a big game is Dan Schulman and Jay Billis.
Oh,
and that to me shows it's a big game. Now we also in SEC country, we get to hear, and Dudley, I'm sure is a fan of him, get to hear a lot of Jimmy Dykes.
Yes.
As an analyst. Now, I personally like him when he's paired with like a Tom Hart, who is to me so good and versatile as a play-by-play guy in a lot of different sports. But, they moved Jimmy Dykes around, and he's with Carl Ravitch calling yesterday's Tennessee-Florida game. He'll be doing the Tennessee-Alabama game Saturday as well. Jimmy Dykes, so energetic and knowledgeable. I love the X's and O's aspect of a broadcast. I don't share you guys' opinion on Bill Walton. I get the
grid.
I get the entertainment aspect of it, but kind of wacky for late at night for me. Like it's a little much. And it's one thing to have it a part of the shtick, but man, it takes over a game sometimes. So I do love the way different play-by-play guys handle him. Dave Pasch is probably the most experienced at it. The way he kind of snaps back at him and tries to put him in his place. That is almost more entertaining than Walton itself. But I would take the knowledge, the X's and O's breakdown any day.
Well, we know about previous broadcasters like Pat Summerall and Tom Brookshire, Howard Cosell, Frank Gifford, Don Meredith. I know Meredith used to get liquored up in the studio up there during the games, and I can't imagine what Bill Walton's doing. I don't think he's just drinking. But
I must give full disclosure. Two of those guests, two of my groomsmen in my wedding to my late wife were Jimmy Dykes and Joe Klein.
Wow!
And,
wow!
So I like those dudes. They get a lot of grief. Jimmy more than Joe. Obviously, good friends with Pat Bradley as well from being around here.
Yeah,
he does a good job as an analyst, I think, at studio.
He does.
But yeah, I wanted to make sure I mentioned their names because I'd get a call or a message here after this if I didn't.
So Dudley, why? I'm sorry, Rob. Why does Jimmy Dykes get grief from Arkansas fans?
They don't think he's homerish enough. They think he goes the other way.
Sorry, he's on ESPN and SEC Network. So what do you?
Yeah.
I
think he's fantastic.
Yeah,
Jimmy Dykes. Listen, you ever want to bring him on with you. I love the guy. I think he's fantastic. I think he is as professional. I mean, not saying he's better than him, but he's kind of like John Ward, who I think is the standard for a broadcaster. What did he do? Vince Ferrara, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Give him 6. Touchdown, Tennessee. God, I love that guy. I miss him so much. And he quit broadcasting after the 98 season.
He did. Different role.
I think they're both from the Eddie Sutton family as well. They were both players on Arkansas's team when I was a manager there in college for Coach Sutton. And so, obviously developed great friendships with them. not everything that comes out of their mouth is golden, but for the most part it is, and they do a really good job. They get paid to do it, which is, always has been a thing to me. If you get paid to do something, then somebody likes you, regardless. And if you're not getting criticism, I've always, told everybody this: if everybody likes everything you do, you're not doing it right, because you're not being fair. You're just telling people what they want to hear, and is. Rob, from having me on now, I'm not really into the tell everybody what they want to hear business. And sometimes it gets me in trouble, and sometimes it doesn't.
Well, and I always tell people, hey, I may not tell you what you want to hear, but I'm going to try to tell you what you need to hear. But I will say this. I know y'all both have big days ahead of you, and appreciate you being on here with us. By the way, Joe Klein is fantastic. Love him being on here. He's from Mule Tree, Missouri?
Slater,
What's the town?
Missouri. Slater, Missouri. Big Joe from Slater Mo.
Yeah, and he is we've had him on the show several times, and he owns a couple of Corky's barbecues in the Little Rock market. What a quality! I mean, he's so knowledgeable about basketball. I remember him when he transferred from Notre Dame, and so any of those guys, I think, are fantastic. Let's do this real quick. We're going to take a break. If y'all can stay over. Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com is going to be on. He's what Kevin Skarbinski describes the other day as a hoop head. Okay. We're going to bring Franz in. We're going to talk some more college basketball. If Dudley and Vince can stay on with us, love to do it. A few more minutes with y'all. Right after we take this quick commercial break. My hands are so cold here in the Ice Station Zebra Sideline Studios. I couldn't find. Here we go. We'll be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Dudley, Dawson, Hogville.net. Subscribe to them. They have a team over there. Dudley, Otis Kirk, the whole crew over there cover the Razorbacks like nobody else. I know he had to get on to another engagement. Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com checks in with us. Just another day in paradise. Yeah, that's what I'm saying right now when I talk to people. We're up to 7 degrees right now here in the Memphis Park and Metroplex. We've been talking a lot of college football, basketball. Got into that discussion about some of the top announcers that you see in broadcasting. I do love Bill Walton late at night. Franz, this is Vince Ferrara, sports animal up in Knoxville, native of Tampa. Mama Ferrara's. He just spent 17 days down there in the Sunshine State, and he's from Tampa, a USF grad, and spent a lot of time in Tuscaloosa. Now been in Knoxville for a while. Does a great show every morning. So we're talking basketball. And Franz, as much as you love football, I got to say, I think your favorite sport is basketball. And you also get a special award for appearing on sidelines while being a motorist. So thank you for joining us.
I am currently on the outskirts of Ocala, where it is a steamy 43 right now.
Wow.
It was when I left Gainesville, it was 37. So I'm on my way down to Orlando, and they say that the high today will be 55. So I'll be ripping off my clothes and running naked down the street, obviously.
Well, look, let's talk some college basketball. Vince covers Tennessee. Dudley was on with us. We're talking about Arkansas. They got a win last night.
Great win for the Razorbacks.
Yeah, and that was a big win because you don't want to be 1-3, 1-4, because then you begin playing really tight, I think. But let's talk about the Gators basketball with Coach Golden. Look, tradition-wise, it's Kentucky with the national championships 8, Florida 2, and Arkansas 1. People expect a lot out of the Gators. What are we going to get this year?
This is a good team. Not great, but good. They can beat people. There's nobody on their schedule they can't beat at home. They've got to figure out a way to steal a couple wins on the road, and that's going to be really tough for them. But they're the kind of team that can get pushed around, which Tennessee did a great job of yesterday. And if they're hitting shots, they can beat anybody. They've got some real athletes. They've got some size, but they get pushed around. And I'm just being realistic about it. They are not a physical team, but they're getting there. This kid, Alex Condon, who is a true freshman and one hell of a rebounder, hadn't figured out the offensive end of the game yet, but his dad is like Aussie Rules Football Hall of Fame, and his mom was an Olympic swimmer. And he is tough as nails. He's got elbows like razors. Nobody wants to get around him when he's coming down with the basketball. He has so far suppressed his desire to kick the basketball, but he wants to. He's the tough guy. I mean, he really is. And so is Riley Kugel. And I haven't figured out yet how it is that Riley Kugel doesn't live at the foul line, because I promise you, nobody in the Southeastern Conference gets fouled more than he does. Yesterday, I'm not going to say that the Zebras were bad, but when Florida played Tennessee yesterday, that was a street fight. Now, to the officials' credit, it was a street fight on both ends, and Tennessee was just better at street fighting. But that's what it was. And if you play Tennessee, that's what you got to get ready for, because they're going to come out there, and Rick Barnes tells the guys, okay, it's kung fu fighting and all that other stuff. Break out the switchblades, the street fighting, your billy clubs. We're going to do it all. And that's what they do. And when you got a team that can play as physical as that, and then they throw in that shooter, Dalton Connect, who looks like the Caitlin Clark of men's basketball.
Yeah.
And let me say this, since I mentioned her name. Caitlin Clark is the deal. That is the best show in college basketball. And I will watch an Iowa women's basketball game over just about any men's basketball game. No, I wouldn't. I got to watch the Gators because I write about them. And Carolina Duke, I would not. Carolina Duke, I would preempt my mother's funeral for Carolina Duke. Not really, but close. Carolina Duke basketball.
Yeah.
Having been to enough of them to know that it's the best tradition in all of college basketball. No question about it.
Vince,
but Florida could be good, but they're not going to be great.
Yeah. Vince, hearing what he just said, Tennessee having a great shooter. How excited. They're so hard to find these days.
Well, I would honestly maybe describe him a little bit different. He is a great shooter, but he's a great offensive player all around. The way he gets to the basket and doesn't just go into the paint to try to get fouled. That was one of the things Todd Golden was talking about with his guys, because we know the Gators drive to the basket heavy and frequently, but he thought maybe they were at times trying to get fouled as opposed to trying to score. Dalton Connect will score and look to score, and he can play through that contact and draw those fouls, Oh, by the way, he makes most of his free throws on top of that. He's an excellent finisher. He's a scorer, mid-range, driving, dunks, three-point shots. A shooter to me is a guy that sits beyond the three-point line and launches and makes a bunch of them. And those are valuable if that's what you have.
Yeah.
But Dalton Connect is an elite college basketball offensive player. And that's why he is tough to defend. Jimmy Dykes was talking about during the broadcast. We were talking about broadcasters, how he had the exact amount of drives left as he did drives right. And that, for a defender, that makes you so difficult to try to stop. When you're heavy to one side, teams can scheme you up better. You can't with him. Oh, by the way, on top of that, it's not just him. Tennessee might be the best screening and pick and roll team in college basketball. And they've got thick physical guys that can do it. They've got a terrific guard in Zakai Ziegler and Santiago Vescovi that are crafty, small, and quick. They can distribute off of that. And they can roll. Adu is improved so much offensively. So he's a threat to score. So now you may not hedge out or come out as hard on that screen because you're worried about Adu getting to the basket. Connect can launch over you with that quick release and scoring ability. They are really tough to defend with that pick and roll. So those are the things that they have added to this team in being more diverse, much more diverse and more of a threat on offense than they've been in years past.
Yeah. And you talk about these guys that can go left or right, and they're harder to scheme. It's just like when people say someone's a dual threat quarterback, they're saying he can run it as effectively in theory as he can throw it. To me, a really dual threat quarterback would be one who could throw with equal accuracy with his left or right arm. That would be dangerous, especially with all the RPO offenses. Franz, talking about college basketball, and you've got a lot of experience covering the ACC when you lived in North Carolina. And we've had this discussion with Dudley Dawson of Hogville.net, Vince Ferrara of the Sports Animal in Knoxville, about who are which is the best league, Big 12, SEC, ACC. How would you rank them right now? And if there's another league like the Big East, you better think about them. Put them in there.
Well, the number one is the Big 12. I mean, unquestionably, they have great teams up and down the whole conference. The SEC is not a bad second, but second just the same. I think the SEC is going to get 8 or 9 teams in. I rate the Big East third. The Big Ten. Well, there's 14 teams in the Big Ten. They'll get 21 of them, maybe 23 of them into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, you're right.
The reputation, the Big Ten has been living on reputation for way too many years, and that goes in football and basketball too. And I have yet to figure out how it is that a conference that hasn't won a national championship since the year 2000, when Tom Izzo and his band of thugs beat up the Gators. You're talking about a game that you got out physical.
Yeah,
I never forget that. Florida fights back, and Teddy Dupay just about tackles a guy, and Billy Packer called him a thug. What the hell did he think Michigan State was doing? I mean, they came out there and turned it into a rock fight.
Yeah, hold that thought real quick. I know Vince has got to get to a next segment, but Vince, look, love having you on here. Appreciate you staying over. Always great insight and whatever, but let people know how they can follow you. You have a great show Monday through Friday, but you're also at the tip of the spear with the VOLS Network.
Well, I appreciate it, Rob. I always enjoy the opportunity to talk to you and different guests that you have on the show. So you can follow me on all the socials, Vince Sports, VINCE Sports, and then on our website, 991thesportsanimal.com. You can go to the podcast section, to get our podcast of our morning show, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, 5 to 8 Central with John Wilkerson. He and I are the Tennessee baseball crew for Vol on the Vol Network, and do pregame player interviews with Tennessee basketball players on a local TV show. So on the socials, we'll keep you updated on everything going on, but always love being on the show.
And by the way, next week we're going to start talking some fall baseball as well as basketball, and then looking ahead to spring practice. So never a dull moment. But thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Okay, have a great day.
You guys stay safe and warm out there. Appreciate you.
You too. All right, Franz, you were rolling talking about basketball, and I think was that the team in 2000 with Michigan State that won the national championship? They called them the Flintstones. He had all the guys from Flint, Michigan. Tom Izzo, it's a love affair. It's a man crush on the part of the national media that covers basketball. As much as I like Coach K for just his competitiveness, his intensity, his skills, you don't want to put a mic anywhere near him. As anybody will tell you, he drops a few bombs, hundreds of them in every game. No. Yeah. And who was it? Were you the one the other day that was calling him not Dick Vitale, but Duke Vitale? And he gets on there, and there is this sense of a man crush. Izzo, 24 years ago. Now he's been to 9, maybe 10 Final Fours since then, but just goes to show you how hard it is to win a national championship in college basketball, much less any sport.
Well, it is, and the NCAA tournament is the great equalizer. Because you've got 3 weekends to win 6 ball games.
Yeah.
And it's, if you lose one, it's over and done with. And this is what, we're going to get a sense of that with the expansion of the college football playoff. It's going to go to 12 teams. My belief is by the time they get through this contract with ESPN, they get 2 more years on it, they will expand to 16. I feel certain that that's going to happen, because what they're going to do is they're going to get all 8 or 9 Division I conferences. I think there may still be 10 by then. I don't know, but I think the Pac-2 and the Mountain West are going to merge to become something like the Pac West, or whatever they want to call it, the Mountain Pac and the Pac West, or some sort of something, or the Pac-12 minus 10. The Pac-12 minus 10. How's that?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that the college football playoff will go to 16 teams, where you have the 8 or 9 conference champs in there. Then the rest of them will be at-large teams. And it's going to create the same impact as the NCAA tournament, because then you're going to have to win 4 ball games. Any way you look at it, 8, 4, 2, and it's a better scenario. It really is a better scenario. 8 games, 4 games, 2 games, and then you have your championship game. So the team that wins is going to have to win 4 ball games. I think watch the NCAA drop a ball game, because they're going to say, wait a second, you count a conference championship and somebody's going to play 17 ball games. And the difference between 17 and 16 is 1 weekend. But I think they're going to look at the fact that fans have to travel to the conference championship game. Fans have to travel, somebody's fans will have to go on the road, because I think the first weekend will be on home sites, etc. That's the one thing I think the NCAA tournament in basketball could do. I would love to see it go with your first round and second round games are on home, are on home courts. I would love to see that, and then go to your big arenas and your neutral site games for the Sweet 16 onward. They're not going to do it, because the way they look at it is, why screw up a good thing when we got a good thing going? but I'd love to see it. But that's what's going to happen in college football is you're going to have 8 home games. You know, your top 8 seeded teams are going to get a home game. And then after that, you'll go to the neutral site games. But let's get back to college basketball. Caitlin Clark is the best player in America, bar none, period. I don't care what men or women. If you haven't watched her, she is the Pete Maravich of women's basketball. And I say that having been a friend of Pete's and having been one of the biggest fans Pete Maravich ever had. Pete was in a league by himself. Pete did things that nobody has ever done and nobody will ever do. This girl is the Pete Maravich of women's basketball. If you haven't seen her hit a step back 3 from 30 feet, you're missing something.
Well,
she throws up, looks like it's going in.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We watched her last year in the national championship game with LSU, friends, and she really drew a lot of people to watch the women's game. And look, LSU people, look, there's nothing wrong with being tough and brash, but I don't get into all the make it about me. I like to see the athletes show class and be team players. And I like Kim Mulkey though. I like her intensity. I love people that are that driven because they inspire me. They ought to inspire everybody else. So, but Caitlin Clark at Iowa, if there's a rematch, that's going to be like a great heavyweight fight rematch. Okay, so that I think will be a lot of fun to watch. It's what I'm saying. Let's call the new Mountain West Pac-2 merger. Let's call it the MPAC, capital MPAC, Mountain Pacific Athletic Conference. Let's just call it that. I'm naming it now, and it's my idea. How often do we have original thoughts, friends? Not many. Most people repeat what they hear. What is unique about you is that you can take all of this complex minutia and all of these stats and put them in the vernacular. Folks, you need to subscribe to GatorBaitMedia.com because what Franz and Brendan Martin and Buddy Martin and Ben Troop, you ought to see that Thursday night show alone on the Buddy Martin show. They're putting out some of the best journalistic content driven true grit journalism you'll find anywhere, not just on the Gators and the SEC, but on college athletics as a whole. You know, they're not wearing skinny jeans. They're not drinking the Kool-Aid. They're not up there just trying to be friends with the athletes. They call it like they see it. Friends, now we're talking college basketball, college football. Got to ask you, got a lot of questions, and I'm not going to type them because they're on my text about Gator football. Scott Strickland hired Old Yeller Jim McElwain. You wrote about you're the one making this obvious.
No,
you wrote about
Foley,
him, and then
Jim Foley did.
Yeah, Foley hired McElwain. Okay,
Old Yeller, who got paid $4 million and couldn't get his teeth whitened.
Yeah, then Dan Mullen. Okay, Florida has everything, and I'm not saying this just to because you're on, but they have everything that you need to succeed. But them and Auburn and Georgia were the last schools in the league to get indoor football practice facilities. I guess they thought the weather was nice, but think about it. When a hurricane or a tropical storm sits on you for 3 days, you know, it changes how you practice. What do you see going on at Florida that makes you think they can win 7 or 8 games with the schedule they have for next year?
Well, Billy Napier did the smart thing, and he hired Ron Roberts. And let's be realistic about Ron Roberts. Ron Roberts came to Auburn and made Auburn 1 touchdown better defensively.
He did.
Think about that. I made a comparison. Florida, with 1 touchdown better, in the last 2 years is 18-7, and then all of a sudden everybody's talking about what a great job Billy Napier has done restoring the Florida program. They are on their way. Well, they haven't been a touchdown better. They have had the ball with a chance to win like 6 times. 6 times.
Yeah.
And didn't do it.
Yeah.
That's got to change. But I will say this. The Gators have scored enough points to win those games. The problem isn't the problem with Florida has nothing to do with the offense. I know people say Billy Napier's offense is boring. They would not be saying that if the Gators were winning those football games.
Yeah.
You know, you got beat by Tennessee, for example, in 2022, 38-33, and the Gators have the ball on the last possession. That's a game that Florida should have won.
Yeah.
Should have, but didn't. Florida had the ball on the last possession against Florida State that year, for example. Should have won that game. Figured out a way to lose it. This past year, should have beaten Arkansas. Should have beaten Missouri. Didn't do it. And this is you're not down to white knuckles if the defense is getting off the field. And this is why Ron Roberts has been brought in. Florida's defense has got to be better than 70th in the country, which is what they were this year. And the year before, they were like, I think, 419th out of 131 teams.
Yeah.
But you can't. The SEC, for all the great offenses that you've had in the SEC, and we've had some, got some coming in.
Yeah.
I mean, when even Lane Kiffin understands this, he gets Pete Golding. They make tremendous strides in 2023. So what is he doing for Pete Golding? He's gone out and he has into the portal. And I got to tell you what, you know who's going to be scary next year? That's Ole Miss with the defense. Yeah. Holy cow.
Walter Nolan, now, among others.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You look at all the guys they brought in.
Let me time out for just a second. We got to take a quick break. We're going to bring David Schultz back from down in Lafayette, Louisiana. Schultz cast, locked on Sunbelt. And I'll say this, Ole Miss, to agree with you more, they are, as Yancey Porter of Rebel Yell Hotline says, they're smelling blood. They're bringing in, via the portal, Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, 5 all-SEC proven defensive players. That is scary. Folks, we're going to be right back to talk more about this, again, with 2 of the best, Franz Beer, GatorBetMedia.com, and David Schultz, right after this quick commercial break.
Done, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, man, we're about to have a lot of fun. Ron Roberts did create the creeper defense, I think, when he was at Delta State, guys, home of the Fighting Okra and also the birthplace of one of the great hamburger franchises, Backyard Burgers. I love that place. David Schultz, man, we're riding around here. We got 6 inches of snow in Memphis and parking. That's a dusting to you. I know.
No kidding.
Did y'all get any down in Lafayette, by the way? You did?
We did not. No, I don't think we did. No.
Okay.
No. The car was frozen yesterday, but we didn't get any snow.
All right. Let's talk about it real quick. David Schultz, I call him the Sultan of the Sunbelt. Look, we're talking about college basketball. Franz Beard is what Kevin Skarbinski called last week a hoop head. Loves basketball as well as football.
Sure.
And I know you really know basketball well too. Give me your top leagues right now. Big 12, SEC, ACC, Sunbelt, ACC. Let's talk about it. Or I would say
yeah, that's a good question. I guess right now it has to be, I guess the Big 12. Right now, I'm just sort of transferring from football, although that story just won't die anytime soon, right? I mean, this one domino of Nick Saban, Yeah. We got new head coaches in a week, by the way. Washington, Arizona, San Jose State, South Alabama, and now Buffalo, right? There was no head coaching openings on January 1st. They were all filled. Yeah. And now we're going to have like a half a dozen. So I did watch my Orange play pretty well against Pitt last night, so that was nice. Zach Edey with Purdue, they didn't want to bounce back from last year's early exit. So I'll probably go with the Big 12 right now, and then we'll sort of settle into college basketball. Although, we're heading, hopefully we're heading to Mobile for the Senior Bowl, and of course Rob will again tell us that, he's going to be down there, but then make some sort of an excuse because he's hunted every weekend for the last 2 months, but he can't make it because he's got to hunt the last weekend of the year.
Well, it is coming up. Is it February 2nd this year?
Yeah, 3rd.
Okay.
Right.
February 3rd. Okay. Yeah, because we got to be in Charlotte the 9th up there. Found out that yesterday. But let me say this, David, and talking with Franz last week, I'm out doing a hike, a walkie-talkie, I call it, after the show. Franz calls me and starts talking about Jed Fish, the coach at Arizona, who used to be a quarterback coach at PK Young High School. Steve Spurrier brought him on as a GA. He gave me his resume, and all of a sudden I said, throw Jed Fish's name in the mix for the Alabama job. Well, look what happened yesterday, Franz Beard. You were that was a harbinger of things to come. Are you clairvoyant? Rub off that crystal ball and give me the winning lottery numbers while you're at it.
Well, Jed Fish came to Florida, and he left a note on Steve Spurrier's car every day for like 6 months saying, hey, I would give anything to work with you. So he becomes a student assistant, kind of like an analyst, a gopher, graduates from Florida. His roommate the entire time in Florida is Howie Rosenbaum, who is the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles. And he and Howie are both football fanatics who never played the game. Jed Fish played high school tennis, by the way. I mean, that was a real preparation. He graduates from Florida, becomes goes to PK Young as a coordinator, then becomes a GA for Steve Spurrier. And that's what got it started. And you look at what he has learned, and he's coached in the NFL as well. He worked with Bill Belichick with the Patriots as the quarterback coach there, among other things. But Jed Fish has picked up something everywhere he's been. But the basics of what he does is the fun and gun, the Steve Spurrier, which is to say you throw, you get the lead, and then you run after you've worn them out. And, at Washington, he's going to win. I don't know that he's going to win like Kalen DeBoer did, because Kalen DeBoer was in the Pac-12, and now they got to go to the Big Ten with these god-awful road trips. Can you imagine Washington playing Rutgers? Holy, I'm sure they're just looking forward to that. Oh, boy, we get to fly 21 hours to the East Coast and play Rutgers, and then we got to fly 21 hours back to the left coast to Seattle. And, oh, yeah, that's just going to be peachy keen.
Well, Franz, Franz, let me throw something at you. And Dave, you jump in here. What about that, what Franz is saying about these cross-country road trips? I predict in 2 or 3 years, there's going to be a big push to go back to the old conferences for every sport but football.
I probably agree with that, Rob. They're probably gonna, separate football from the rest. And someone had that idea. I don't know who it was. Maybe it was you. Maybe it was Franz.
We've talked about it with
to the
you.
regular ones. Yeah, because it's not only about football, right? I mean, for the most part, football leaves on a Friday afternoon and comes back Saturday night. They don't really miss anything, right? But what about the golf team? I don't know about you, but these golf teams at some of these schools, they drive, right?
Yeah.
The track, those are weekend meets. But a soccer team, a soccer match in the middle of the week, what are we really flying from, Seattle to State College? Is that what we're going to do? I mean, come on. That's not the easiest place to get to. So that's going to take, so they leave on if they have a Tuesday match, right? So they leave on a Monday. They have the Tuesday match on a Tuesday. I guess if they're flying, back to the West Coast, they get those hours. But what happens if it's the other way around? What happens if it's Penn State flying out to Seattle, right? So they play a 4:00 match in Seattle. They finish up at 6. They're on a plane at 8, right? Now they're getting up and going to school when basically they're landing and they're going to school. So I agree with you. Some of those cross-country trips beyond football is gonna take a toll on these athletes.
They really are. And Chip Kelly has a big platform. We have a big platform, but we've been talking about this since they announced it a year ago, July, about these cross-country midweek. Think about in January right now when you've got Oregon playing a midweek non-revenue sport at Rutgers, at Maryland, and you get snowbound. You could be there for 3 or 4 days. And that's the scary part about this, Dave. When you go home to Syracuse, there's a chance you could be caught. Remember the pictures of the stands at Buffalo before the game? Yeah. I mean, what were the conditions there last Saturday that they had to push the game to Monday night? They were 60-mile-an-hour winds?
Yeah, it was awful, right? And it's not downtown Buffalo, right? Downtown Buffalo got a dusting, so to speak, but just 10 miles south. It got clobbered.
In Orchard Park.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So basically, what you're going to have, maybe these kids are going to be, we did all the Zoom stuff during the pandemic, so maybe they do go away. I don't know what these other schools do, but like the Sunbelt plays on a Thursday, Saturday for basketball. So maybe that's what the Big Ten is going to do. They're going to go away for the week, right? They leave on a Wednesday and they come back on a Sunday. Type of deal. They play on Thursday, Saturday, so to speak.
Yeah.
If that's the case, and then they are gone, and they just go to class, wherever they may happen to be on a Friday.
Yeah.
Without traveling back.
Yeah. Franz, I think Schultz is on to something that makes a lot of sense because of the heavy toll of travel. And I didn't mean to cut you off a minute ago. I just wanted to get back in. But that's a great point.
This is what the Pac-12 has been doing for years, in that the Pac-12 was smart because you had basically 2 schools together. You'd play if you're in Arizona, you play Arizona, say on Friday, Arizona State on Sunday, or Thursday, Saturday. They've been doing that for years, and that's what they're going to have to do in the Big Ten. The difference is this, though. Los Angeles to Phoenix, for example, is an hour flight. Los Angeles to San Francisco, you play Cal and Stanford same weekend. That's an hour flight. It's a 3-hour flight to Oregon. It's a 4-hour flight up to Seattle.
Yeah.
All right. That's okay. All right. The closest place now is Nebraska. I don't know if you've ever been to Nebraska, guys, but when God invented the middle of nowhere, he had Nebraska in mind. Because if you love cornfields, you can find them. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
If you're looking for civilization, you got a couple places where you got it. Otherwise, you don't.
Yeah.
You got a lot of corn, though. Whole lot of corn.
Yeah.
And you got Minnesota. Can you imagine? All of a sudden, the network decides, okay, we're going to play UCLA football now at Minnesota, which has an outdoor stadium, at 9:00 in November.
Oh.
In football, okay?
Yeah.
And I don't know about this, and Schultz, you know this. You grew up in the snow belt, but it snows occasionally, like every other day, in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
I've been to Minneapolis. By gosh, when the Gators played Villanova for the regional championship in 2006, before they went to Indianapolis to win their first NCAA basketball tournament, it was 28 degrees. I stopped at the Land's End store because I love Land's End products. I stopped at the Land's End store. There are people in there in shorts and tank tops and saying, boy, this balmy weather is really great, isn't it? It was 28 degrees.
Yeah.
I have a scarf. I've got gloves. I've got you name it. And I'm freezing my ass off. Truly. And these people are in tank tops and shorts. They're nuts up there. But the people from UCLA are not going to be nuts. They're going to be up there and they're going to realize we're going to get frostbite if we play in this game.
Yeah. Yeah.
We would have,
I don't know.
At school, I went to school at Oswego. I didn't go to Syracuse. I went to Oswego. That's on Lake Ontario, right? We actually, my senior year, we actually had a snow day because of the commuters, all right? But, the wind off the lake and the snow off the lake is brutal. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, right? I mean, everyone's covered up from, Thanksgiving through, April Fools. But all of a sudden, you get a 45-degree day with no wind in the middle of February or early March, right? I'm telling you, Franz, the shorts came out. If there was no wind, it's not 28 degrees, but 45 degrees with no wind and the sun was out, all of a sudden you saw, I don't know about tank tops, but, the co-eds came out with shorts, and it was always, a welcomed surprise on a somewhat balmy day in upstate New York.
Yeah.
Hey, I lived in Korea, and my first 6 weeks in Korea, well, the day I got there, it was -2 when I got off the plane. The high that day was 9.
Oh, God.
And for 6 weeks, the day it got up to 32, I organized a streak, and, we were going to...
Oh, my God. Women and children, please.
That was an image that I did not really need.
I didn't say we actually did it. I said I organized it.
There we go.
They were disappointed when Professor Beard decided that we were not streaking that day.
Well,
it might have had something to do with the Presbyterians I worked for.
Well, you know what? You're talking about cold. I remember being in San Moritz, Switzerland on spring break in college, and I went down on the German side. I ended up in Germany. I got lost. I was by myself. Went there to see some friends I'd met the summer before, and it was so cold. And out of
how
the middle
cold
of nowhere,
was it?
It was colder than the you know what. But I got down there at the end of the trail. I got down there. There was a little German pub, a little bar there. Had a couple of road sodas and got going back again. But it was so cold you couldn't think. And you think about David growing up there off Lake Ontario every day. If you've ever been really cold, and I'm talking about stranded, I've spent the night in a car getting caught in snow before because you couldn't. the cars in front of you, you couldn't get out of the hole you were in. But David, I really think these cross-country trips are going to take a toll, and you're going to see us go right back to the old conferences, and then football finally going to become the 85 scholarships, a separate island, and they're already not part of the NCAA has 91 national championships. Okay, the March Madness is the big money maker. After that, it's the College World Series. But that's the model I see going forward, David. Who's going to start
somewhere along the way, these guys, right, like FSU got penalized for a coach driving somebody to an NIL deal. Stop. Somewhere along the way, these football teams are going to say, no, come get us, right? We're going to ignore your penalties. And I agree with you that the football will be a separate entity. I'll tell you one of the coldest times I've ever been, and I was not a real bright kid at the time. I was actually moving back from a high desert. So Victorville, Adelanto is in between, LA and Vegas. And I was working an Arizona State, Arizona ball game, like the day after Thanksgiving or something along those lines. And for some reason, I was in T-shirts and shorts because I was in the desert. Yeah, it gets chilly in the desert around Thanksgiving. My feet were frozen. I mean, it was only 40, 45 degrees. We had a little bit of wind, but that's when I learned, the biggest thing, it's not only gloves and, extra layers. That second pair of socks comes in real handy when it's cold. Second pair of socks. Huge difference.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm thinking about it. Go ahead, Franz.
One of the things you're hitting on is this football has to be a separate entity. Greg Sankey needs to be the commissioner of the new entity, which is your college football. And if you can't get Greg Sankey, there's a pretty good guy named Nick, somebody who's pretty good guy, very well organized, and a guy that has real integrity. Put him in charge. That would be. I don't think anybody would object to that. My personal opinion is don't mess with Greg Sankey because he's made the SEC a lot. Following Mike Slive, Greg Sankey has made the SEC the most powerful conference in all of college sports, and he is the single smartest guy in any room he's in. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in a room with Greg Sankey, but the guy will absolutely amaze you with his intellect. And he's an upstate New York guy himself, by the way. So obviously his brain didn't get frozen. Yep.
He's a SUNY grad.
His brain obviously did not get frozen in the Sunbelt.
Syracuse Masters. Yep.
So is he a lawyer? Is Sankey an attorney?
No.
I don't think so.
No, he's not.
Yeah. All right, David, I got to ask you this.
He's not. He works for a living.
Yeah. All right, here's the question that's come up here, and we're kind of all over the place. And this is because the Sunbelt just lost Kane Womack. He's going to Alabama. But who are the top young coaches? And I think just a few years ago, everybody thought Billy Napier was. He won 41 games at the University of Louisiana. But, David, you see a lot of these guys, Cignetti, he's gone from JMU now.
He's not young. Kurt Cignetti isn't young. Don't confuse that.
Yeah, exactly. So who are the coaches out there? Everybody says we got to get rid of our coach. Well, in the investment world, hey, if you're going to dump a stock, what are you going to replace it with? Because cash ain't going to make you a living when you factor in inflation, taxes, and the cost of living. So who are the young up-and-coming coaches?
Well, with Texas State, G.J. Kinney is absolutely up-and-coming. He had one of the best offenses in America a couple years ago with Incarnate Word. He took that to San Marcos, and T.J. Finley, took them. They won 8 ball games for the first time in D1. They went to and won a bowl game for the first time. But all of a sudden, he's running into trouble, right? I mean, T.J. Finley announced he was coming back to school last Thursday, and we did an episode on Friday on Locked On Sunbelt, and now all of a sudden, Jaden DeLora from Arizona decides he's going to Texas State, and now T.J. Finley is out into the portal, at least for now. We'll see where he ends up. So he is absolutely one. Again, Tim Beck is not young. There's nothing young about Tim Beck, but he got his first chance to be a head coach with Coastal Carolina, and he had to deal with a bunch of quarterback issues, injuries and such, and he won a bowl game and eight games this year. So I'm not sure he's up and coming or young, but he did a good job. And so those are a couple of guys that maybe under the radar. We'll see if Will Hall can get it going in Southern Miss. He stumbled this year, seems to be heading in the right direction. So that's another a good coach with a long history of good offenses. Southern Miss is one of those things. You'll appreciate this, Rob and Franz. They have a separate fan base compared to where the Cajuns are or the Georgia schools are. They're a lot more like App State. Although Georgia Southern has their fan base, right? They don't worry about the SEC teams or the ACC teams in their footprint. And Southern Miss has a solid fan base. And if you can get that going in the right direction, they proved it with the basketball team last year. Jay Ladner told me a great story that before the season, they had like a preseason get together, and I'm not even sure he was talking like dozens of people came out. Like it was a dozen people came out. And he is like, someone told him, you win and we'll fill this place up. And so, they had a big ball game at home and they had a couple hundred people there the next time. So you start winning, at Southern Miss, they'll show up. They're not worried about, Ole Miss or Mississippi State. Whereas, here in Lafayette or in Mobile, right? I mean, there's a lot of crossover at South Alabama. They're Auburn and Alabama fans, right? And so,
guys, I got to tell you something. You watch what's going on. Kalen DeBoer has opened doors for these coaches in NAIA, NCAA Division III. Lance Lappold has already proven that you can do that. Division II, etc., like that. You're going to start seeing people, ADs, starting to look down at where these guys are doing and down in these lower leagues and divisions and saying, coaching is coaching. If you can win at this level, what can you do if we give you the resources at the next? And Kalen DeBoer has opened up a door for this. It's not going to be just poaching coaches from the Sunbelt anymore. It's going to be poaching coaches who are winning in Division II, Division III, and NAIA. And we can thank Kalen DeBoer for that. I personally think that's a great idea because I think there's monsters down there who get overlooked. I remember back in the day when I was in Hammond, Louisiana, and Southeastern Louisiana is playing in the league. You had really good coaches at Nichols, at McNeese, and places like that. And it was, the football was really, really good at that level. And you wonder why some of these coaches didn't get a chance. You look at Joey McGuire, who's now at Texas Tech, a high school legend in the state of Texas. He's a guy that somebody's going to say, rattlesnakes and tumbleweeds in Lubbock. How about coming someplace where we got water moccasins and alligators and you could win here? In this state, I mean, it's only a matter of time before it happens. But we're starting to see coaches from the high school ranks, from the Division II ranks, et cetera, like that are going to get their chances. That coach at South Dakota State, I got to tell you what, he can flat out coach. He can coach anywhere. And they've won what, 30 games in a row?
Yeah, they're good. I mean, like Franz is making so many great points about it, David. You also don't want the Sunbelt to just be a feeder league or a farm system to the SEC or the Big 12.
Yeah, but that's
impossible
really what it's going to be. You can't, right? I mean, the SEC is getting $50 million from the network, right? Like they're not paying, their coaches based on their, sponsorship and ticket sales. And so every one of their, at least the coaching staff on football, if not the entire staff, is taken care with one $50 to $55 million check. That's got to cover almost all of their coaches, right?
Yeah.
Because only one or two, for the most part, are getting paid, huge 7-figure salaries. I guess Jay Johnson's probably making $1 million or something like that at LSU baseball, maybe a little bit more after the national championship. But I did want to talk about, Kane Womack. You brought him up. And so here's the situation. Kane has had a good 3-year run at South Alabama, but I didn't hear his name for any of these Power 5 jobs, okay? And maybe he had an off year this year for whatever reason. They were not as good as we had thought they were going to be. They didn't win a 10-win season. They didn't compete for a Sunbelt championship, or they didn't get to a major bowl game, although they did win their first bowl game. But Jeff Lebby, a Power 5 coordinator from Oklahoma, he gets a Mississippi State job. Jeff Lebby, and all due respect to him, has 0 head coaching experience. He's never been a head coach at any level. But because he came from a Power 5 job, he got the Power 5 job. That's why, Kane, in addition to the money and working with his friend, took the Alabama job because he's going to have an easier time. And I'd be shocked if he's not a head coach in the next year or two at a Power 5 school. He's going to have an easier time getting a Power 5 head coaching job from, Alabama, D.C. than he would from South Alabama, G5.
Let me say this, we're about out of time. If Kane Womack gets a Division I job, first thing I do is hire you, David Schultz, to be my sports information director, head of media. I don't like the head of media relations because all they do is tell you no. But I would want someone like you that knows how to promote and communicate. But it's going to be interesting. USA.
Kane's pretty good at that. I'm not sure he needs my help, but if he wants to hire me as his personal media correspondent at Alabama, hire me right now.
I mean, it would make sense. Hey, look, we have run out of time. Franz Beer, GatorBaitMedia.com. Subscribe. It is a great source of information, as well as the Buddy Martin Show. Catch him there a lot during the week on YouTube. It is a fantastic show. And David Schultz, let people know how they can follow you, because, look, we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. We most often see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out and help other people. We are so blessed. We got the best guests and the best sponsors like Schultzy, who my wife always says, get Schultzy on. And I get so many people when I have guys like Franz and you, David, on, because y'all have such knowledge. I call it depth of knowledge. And, man, I learn. I'm sitting there trying to take notes while you're on here. But thank you both for taking time and sharing with us and with all of our viewers and listeners. It really means a lot.
Thanks, Rob. Locked On Sunbelt. You can find it on YouTube. Please subscribe. Rob, keep on wearing that Marty McFly vest from Back to the Future. It will come back into style any day now.
Hey, it's a Filson vest. It is 47 degrees in the house. The heat sensor is broken, and we're waiting for the heat and air man to come over here and fix it.
You're wearing a vest.
Yeah.
But you're not wearing a coat. You're wearing a vest.
Yeah. Well, but I'm also wearing a thick Stetson shirt. But look, great show, everybody. Thanks so much. We'll be back tomorrow. We are out of here.